Welcome to another episode on Beyond Capable.
This is your host, Eric Trinidad. I got a really special guest today with us, Danny. Before we sat here today, in my opinion, a powerful story. And I'm happy you're here today that we can share your story and your process from going through the system and having your own personal problems to overcoming all that and becoming the man you are today. So walk me through what's going on in your childhood on that point.
For sure. I appreciate you having me on here. Kind of like we spoke about before, having people hear the story is the most important thing about the story. Like my own self-growth and development is great. And it's good for the people around me, but people that can relate to me that I don't have contact with or live far away, maybe they could hear it and maybe have some type of inspiration or motivation.
Yeah, it's important. And I love the fact that you think that way because it's people out there that might think that, well, my situation right now is so difficult that nobody will understand.
Mm-hmm.
That because that's the way we think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I say we because that's that's the way I think sometimes.
All right.
My shit is my shit, and nobody understands what I'm going through. You know, can't see or I can't whatever these things, but people out there who are in the same boat or worse than us.
Yeah, for sure.
So your story is so I want to say unique, but also it can resonate with other people.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start from your childhood. What was going on there?
So I was born in Detroit, Michigan. I have two older brothers. We lived there till I was probably about 5 or 6. We moved down here to Florida. Within a year or two of us moving down here, we got separated. My mom and her boyfriend were on just various amounts of different types of drugs. And I mean, we got pulled over a few times. I remember getting pulled over and then they'd get arrested and someone come pick us up, whatever. Like, it was like probably about a year and a half, 2 years by the time we moved here that we got separated. And the crazy part about how it all started was I woke up one night, I was probably 6 years old, and we had like some friends that lived on the same street as us. And I was like at one end of the street and then there was a couple friends down at the other end of the street. Well, I woke up and for some reason I started looking for my mom, couldn't find my mom. And I was like, I was like 6 years old and I was like, I can't find her. So I'm going to jump on my tricycle at maybe 3 a.m. in the morning and ride down to my friend's house and just go see if they know where she's at, which is a crazy thing. Thinking back on it, like, what was I thinking?
I mean, you were a kid.
Yeah, I was a kid. So I took off, went down there, knocked on the door. And her name's Anna. She opens the door, like, oh, what's going on? Whatever. I was like, I can't find my mom. And then she ended up getting, I guess, protective services and stuff involved. And then, I was too young to understand exactly the process. All I just know is we went to court, and then I was living with Anna, the lady whose house I went to.
Okay.
So she had 2, and then my brother Jeff, he's maybe 4 or 5 years older than me. He went to a house in the same neighborhood, and kind of the same thing, like a family, not even a family friend, but just kind of kids we played with, and their parents knew us, and kind of knew like the history too. And I'm sure they could see like, the parents in rough shape. And so he went with them, and then my brother Tim, he was a little bit older, maybe he was 15 or 16 at the time. He went to just a group home in DeLand. Well, actually, okay, let me correct this. We were all with Anna for like a month or 2.
Okay.
And then from there, they kind of went out. And then I stayed with Anna from when I was 6 till about 14.
Oh, wow.
So she had 2 boys, a younger boy than I was probably 6 or 7. He was probably 3. And then the older one was maybe like 12. And at first it was good. I didn't really understand what was going on with my mom. And I still had visitations and stuff. So I'd see her like every weekend. We'd go to the park or something. There'd be like like someone with us to watch us, whatever. And then, so that went on for a little bit. And then same thing at first, it seemed nice. The Anna, like, they weren't rich and they weren't poor, but it was just like, it was a decent house. It had like car, all that stuff. It was nice. And then it just, eventually she just started kind of like changing a lot. And then kind of like the older brother would just like bully me hard and kind of like put a lot of, if we were playing a video game, something like that, he'd just hit me with the controller or push me down, all this stuff. And he was over 200 pound he was a really overweight kid.
Wow.
And there's a one time when my brother Tim was visiting, and Justin, who was the oldest one, did that, and then Tim ended up beating him up. And then I think that's when I lost visitation with my brother Tim. And then so I didn't see him for many years after that.
So you're getting bullied by this kid because, you know, he knows that, put it this way, you're not my real brother. So
Exactly.
I can get away with it.
Right, for
You know?
sure. So there's a lot of favoritism there. Like,
Yeah.
he never got in trouble for none of this stuff.
That would have been tough for you, huh?
Yeah, and he was a huge kid, and I was a tiny kid. And so it was easy. He would, I mean, crazy stuff. He'd sit on me with my arms kind of like this, and then like take garlic and eat garlic and go, like into my, and I'm like almost starting to throw up, all this stuff. Just like, just little stuff like that. Or take a laser pointer and just like shine it into my eyes, that or whatever. Wow. And then, yeah, if he loses temper, or the little brother, he would just like, if I didn't do what he said, he'd just be like, Mom, Danny hit me, or Mom, Danny's being mean to me. And then she would come and just, you know, beat the hell out of me or whatever.
Well, not even asking who did it.
No.
You're the go-to guy.
Oh, for sure. And this was, I was 6, 7, 8 years old at this time. So she's already like physically abusing me. And then she just started like coming in these patterns of like, she would like, we would go to say a restaurant or something like that. And then she'd start telling people that like we're all sick. Like that I had AIDS, that her son had leukemia, and get all this pity. And then she started like, I don't know what happened, but she started losing it. And then she'd get like donation buckets and stuff like that. And none of us were sick. She would take us to the hospital over and over again, like trying to make us like seem sick. And they're like, yeah, there's nothing wrong. And then she would like turn back on me and say stuff, just talk about my mom like horribly, stuff like that. Like, oh, you're going to be like your mom and this or that. And just talk down, and filled my head with a lot of stuff about my mom that I found out wasn't true later on.
Wow. So you went from an unstable house with your mom,
mm-hmm.
then getting some sort of stability with Anna.
Right.
And then things just went down the drain after that. What was going on through your head? How old are you when all this was going on?
6, 7, 8 at this point.
So what was your thought process? You ever can remember back that far?
Yeah, I mean, I just remember feeling trapped. I feel like there's no, like, I have no option. Like, what do I do? And same thing, she would tell me, because we'd have to go to court hearings like every few months.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd ask like, oh, how's the situation there? And they'd have like, I think it's called a guardian ad litem, or like a social worker. Okay.
Yep.
They'd have a social worker that was appointed to me.
Yep.
That would come check out the house, and there's food in the fridge, there's a bed to sleep in. And that's really all they cared about. And they would ask me, like, hey, do you still want to stay here and stuff like that? And like, the funny thing is that she would like 2 or 3 days before every time we'd go to Steak and Shake, and she'd get like me like get a milkshake and stuff like this, and kind of butter me up, and then kind of like script me out of tell me what to tell them.
Yep.
And then same thing, talk down about my mom. Oh, you don't want to go with her. She's a drug addict. She's a prostitute. She's a this or that. And was kind of trying to make me not want to go back to my mom. When this whole time later on, I found out that she was cleaning up this whole time and she was doing good. But my mom was kind of like talking down on her. And then, so then when the social worker came, I was too scared to say anything.
Correct.
I was too scared to like say, no, I don't want to be here. Because then what if he left and Anna found out that I told him that, and then she hurts me?
Or abusing you.
Exactly, for sure. I was terrified of this lady. So I would just say, oh yeah, everything's good, okay, whatever. And then same thing when we'd go to court too. Same thing. I would just tell them, yeah. And then she would tell them, he's having nightmares. He doesn't want to see his mom no more and stuff like that. But that wasn't coming from my mouth. I never said that. I always wanted to see my mom. And so maybe about that time, I lost visitation with my mom. So I didn't get to see her at all no more. And then, so I was probably 8, 9 at that time.
You know, unfortunately, I'm a social worker for trade. It's sad because cases like yours are really common.
Mm-hmm.
Because unfortunately the staff is overworked. The caseload is huge.
Mm-hmm.
So when I used to go to these houses, it's hard. And I'm saying myself, it's details are missed sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Because the caregiver is manipulating the kids,
Mm-hmm.
like you said. So butter you up the days before because she knew that 2 days later the social worker was arriving. So she wants to make it look good for these people. Because she gets paid a month.
Yeah.
And I think it's a couple, like $1,400. They're paying the state.
Yeah.
But they don't want to lose that money. And unfortunately, people care about the money and don't about the kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why she never legally adopted me, because she would lose that.
Wow.
She was getting from Social Security too. So she was getting like a double check
Wow.
for me. So
This was happening to you, all the two brothers at the same time, correct?
so yeah, we all got split up at the same time. Jeff was with a family down the road that I don't know too much about how his situation was specifically, but I do know the family was the parents were nice, and I know that. But same thing, they had two boys. There could have been a lot of favoritism. He could have been going through the same stuff I was going through.
Wow.
And then my other brother Tim, I had no contact with him from that point on.
Oh, today.
So Tim is in prison. He's in Rhode Island. He's doing like 3 years. My brother Jeff, I just found out he lives in Kansas, but I guess he's homeless. He's living in his car. Yeah, tough to hear. It feels bad, especially around like Thanksgiving is when I talked to them both, and I just felt guilty. I cried in my room because I always felt so bad that on Thanksgiving he's sleeping in his car in Kansas, and my brother's sitting in prison.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry to hear that, man. And so going through all this turmoil between like with your brothers and everything, where do you find the strength that just keep on going every day despite all that?
So we were at where I was about 7 or 8 years old. Stuff was going on. When I was 12 years old, I got the news my mom died.
Oh.
So same thing. We kind of lost visitation there for a little bit. But when we went to court, I'd see her, and she'd be crying and trying to hug me. And then, I remember this one time we were at court, and my mom was trying to talk to me, and then my adopted mom came and kind of ripped me away and said, don't talk to her, don't talk to her. My mom's like crying, like, I love you so much, I miss you so much, all this stuff. And same thing, I didn't know what to feel at the time, you know.
Yeah, you didn't know.
I didn't have much of a connection with my mom at that point, and you know, I didn't know what to really think of it. Of course it was very sad to see my mom crying, and it was good to see that she loved me. So I held on to the hope then that eventually, like, I'll turn 18 or whatever, and I'll get back with my mom, and, you know, or eventually she's gonna be clean, and then I can go back with my mom. So when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, I was always thinking like, I'll just go back with my mom eventually. You know, this isn't forever. And then when I was turned 12, I found out she died. So she was living with my brother Tim at the time in Detroit, and they got into like a big argument, and she had been clean already for many years.
Wow. And
she was back in school, and she was really cleaned up her life. And then they got into some big argument, and my brother took off with the car, and I guess he gets a phone call from a neighbor or a friend or something like that. Your mom collapsed or something at the apartment. The ambulance is on the way or something like that. So he turns around to go, you know, see what's going on, and she ended up dying of a heart attack.
How old was she?
She was less than 50, I think. She was less than 50.
Wow. And you were 12 at that time.
So I was 12. I was Anna. We were walking around the city center lake, and I forgot what happened, but she was like scolding me for something, and then she kind of slipped up, and she's like, "You're gonna end up dead, just like your mother."
Wow.
And then she kind of caught herself saying that, and then she's like, just told me that my mom had died or whatever.
So that's how you found out. You being scolded.
Yeah.
And this lady just slipped.
Yeah.
Just being a bitch. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Because I guess she was been dead for a few months before that happened. And my family in Michigan had been trying to get a hold of me for the funeral, and Anna just ignored them and wouldn't let me go to the funeral. And then, so I guess those same family members have been trying to get custody of me, but Anna was kind of like resisting or fighting them.
Oh.
So when she died, I remember the first feeling was just like, it was like shock. And then, I was just like, in my head, I was like, well, you know, I don't see her anyway, whatever. I kind of like compartmentalized it in my head of like, okay, well, what's different? You know, what's different in my life? Nothing. And same thing, Anna had kind of brainwashed me too, to the point to where it was like, my mom wasn't a good person. So I thought like, you know, no big deal, whatever. Of course, later on, it sets in more and more and more. But at that exact time, I was just like, didn't know what it does. Like, okay, well, I was just kind of cold at that point in time, because I really didn't show much emotion ever, because I couldn't. If I was too happy, Anna would like scold me for that, if it was just yes ma'am to everything, kind of like robotic thing. It wasn't like I couldn't really be myself or do or say anything. It was more just like kind of like slave work, and I was just like had no value in myself.
Well, it's abusing you all this time.
Yeah.
So now, for a second, now what you know now, you mentioned before your mom was working really hard to get clean, but this lady just did whatever she could to prevent that because we could assume that she was getting monetary benefits from you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how foster care works.
Mm-hmm.
But her greed was so big that she didn't care about destroying this little boy's life.
Mm-hmm.
You have any resentfulness or something against her?
Today, no.
But at one point you did?
I did forever. Oh yeah, for sure.
You didn't say forever. When was that point that you said, I can't carry this anymore?
Within the past probably 5 or 6 years. The more my family grew and the more I was getting out of my life as far as success in different ways.
Okay.
Not financial success, but just like success in my relationship and my kids growing up and stuff like that. I don't hold on to animosity anyway. I just can't do it.
It's hard. It's more work, huh?
Yeah, for sure. It doesn't do me any benefit to hate someone or to wish bad upon someone. I mean, she ended up, well, okay, we'll go back to, so when I was 12, that happened. When I was 13, 14, she ends up getting arrested.
Oh, wow.
So we get taken away from her. Me and her kids get taken away. So she was involved in a lot of identity theft and fraud and stuff like that.
Okay.
Where she would steal credit cards and IDs and stuff like that and rack them up. And she had already written so many checks in my name and stuff like that, opened like an account in my name and used whatever type of anything I had. Just like writing checks and stuff like that. So when I turned 18, my credit was already like dead.
Wow.
But so she got arrested, and the funny thing is, between 12 and 14, we would go camping or travel and never come back. And now looking back, I understand she was running from the cops, because we would go to Ocala National Forest and we'd camp at this campground, and we'd be there for 6 months, 8 months, and we wouldn't be going to school or nothing.
Wow.
So we were kind of like hiding out in the woods. I didn't know that. I just thought like, this is cool.
Yeah, you're in camp.
Living at a campground.
Yeah.
It was awesome. So when we came back, she, the crazy thing how it worked out was we went to spend the night at someone's house, me and the younger brother, and then the older brother was just out doing whatever. So Anna was at home alone, and the cops just kicked in the door and raided the house and arrested her. Like, it was that serious to where she was like, I'm pretty sure it was state law enforcement that was after her.
Wow.
And so when we were staying with a friend or whatever like that, we get the news. She drives us to Anna's sister's house, which Louisa, we've like her family would get together on like Thanksgiving and Christmas, stuff like that. So I knew like the aunts, the uncles, they were like my aunts and uncles, stuff like that, through my adoptive family. They were all very nice. The surrounding family around her was great. They were awesome. And that was kind of like I always look back at that, and that was the only time I saw like functioning families. So that's kind of what gave me that, and like television is what gave me an idea of what a family was. Wow. Seeing just like loving parents and kids and stuff like that. And like, so that it was good to have that around. It's like, of course, some people have it way worse. They don't even have that.
Yeah.
So at least I got glimpses of like, okay, there's like this and this and that outside of my little ecosystem. And so we got dropped off with Louisa. Same thing. We didn't know what was going on. It was me and the younger brother. We lived with Louisa for a little bit, a couple months maybe, and then Anna gets out of jail. She is trying to get us back from Louisa. Louisa doesn't want to, because she kind of heard the stories of what was going on. You know, I kind of spilled the beans. I was like, yeah, I hate it there. I hate her so much. I hate everything there.
Good.
And even Rodney is a younger brother. He would like contest to it. Like, yeah, that's how it is, whatever.
That's her own son.
That's her own son. Yeah. And then the older brother, he ended up staying with like a friend. He was in high school already like that. So we had like neighborhood friends or whatever like that. So he was staying with, his name's Paul, and his family. So he stayed there for a little bit. Anna came to, I think, okay, so she came to my school first. I was in high school. I just started freshman year, and she came and like tried to call me out of class. just like, Danny, come to the front office. I was like, going home. I go to the front office and Anna's standing. I was like, holy shit. Like, what the fuck? I didn't even know she was out of jail or anything. Wow. Just out of nowhere, she shows up at the school. So I was like, oh, damn. She's like, oh, hi, I missed you so much. Like,
like bullshit.
I was like, I didn't know, can we call a cop in here or something? Like, this lady's not supposed to be here.
So were you scared?
I was scared, yeah.
Wow.
But I was, in my head, I was already planning out. I was like, I'm going to run away tonight. I'm going to just run.
So was that,
leave it.
You don't want to deal with her?
Yeah, no, I was done. Like, once I was out of that, I was like, and I was 14 now. I'm not, I'm like starting to grow up a little bit. So I'm like, I'm just going to run from her. And then, and also I was more scared of Justin, the older brother, more than anything too. But he's kind of already like, doesn't get along with her anyway. And the thing about her was she was on a lot of drugs all the time, as far as prescription drugs. She didn't do any type of illicit drugs. She was on morphine patches, Xanax, Percocets, Lortabs, all this stuff, because she would go to the doctors for anything. And they would just, you have this or you have that.
There you go.
She had her colon removed. So she had I think she had colon cancer. She had her colon removed, or signs of leading to colon cancer or something. But she played that as hard as she could. So she was a cancer patient at that point. And so she would like this and that. But once they removed her colon, there's no more cancer or anything like that. And she was never like physically sick from what I saw, but she would be on so many drugs all the time. She'd be in a coma most of the time too. Oh. So leading up to, I guess that's between 12 and 14, I forgot that gap of life, to where she was on morphine all the time, and it was me taking care of the younger brother constantly. So I wouldn't go to school too. I missed 40-50% of my school between 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. Because I'd have to take care of him, and she's just like in a morphine patch coma. And then, so the son, Justin, he started getting into her stuff, like taking the Xanax and taking that and go with his friends. And
that's the oldest one.
The oldest one.
Oh.
So he started kind of splitting off from her too.
So going back to that moment when you were in school, that she's standing right in front of you, and you're like, I'm running right tonight.
Yeah.
What happened after that?
So she comes and picks me up, and then we go to Rodney's school, the younger brother. He was at Horizon Elementary. So we go to pick him up. Crazy thing, Louisa was there picking up her daughter early for a doctor's appointment at the same exact time that we were there. We were only there 10 minutes, and within that time, bam, she's like, Louisa's just like, what the hell, what's going on here? And I'm like, she came and got me from school, and then Louisa like pulled me over and was like, no, what are you doing here? And she started telling them like, she doesn't have custody of these kids, she shouldn't be here, all this stuff.
Wow.
And then so they kind of get into it there. Anna's crying. Rodney gets brought out by the teachers because he's getting picked up early. Louisa's daughter, she's just gets there because she's leaving her doctor's appointment. And then I go back with Louisa. Well, no, me and Rodney both go back with Louisa. We're like, I think maybe the cop came or something like that. The big fight. We go back with Louisa. Maybe like a few weeks later, Rodney goes back with Anna. Anna ends up like, because she I don't know if she lost rights per se or whatever. Maybe it's temporary while she was in jail kind of thing.
Okay.
But anyway, I think he just wanted to go back with Anna or whatever, or she persuaded him, most likely. Because later on talking to him, she persuaded him to come back, guilt trip, stuff like that. Oh. Me, I was like, I want to stay.
Yeah.
Well, so when I lived with Louisa, she had a son, Brandon, that was about 1.5 years older than me. And we became like best buddies, best friends. Awesome. Me and him experienced everything together as like two brothers would, like either like first time drinking alcohol together, or first time smoking pot together, or getting into fights, meeting girls, like all this stuff was like, we did that together side by side. Oh. Then they had another daughter, Bianca, and then Brianna. They had 2 daughters that were younger. But me and Brandon would hang out all the time. We had our group of friends, whatever. So between, and that's who I started kickboxing with, was Brandon. So that brings me to this point of, me and him got into kickboxing, and he joined the wrestling team, and then I joined the wrestling team. And then, so we would fight on YouTube. You can pull up videos of us when we were 14, 15 years old, fighting in the backyard all the time. And we'd same thing, neighborhood kids come over and we'd have boxing matches, all this stuff. And that's kind of when the UFC, this is 2004, around that time, 2003, 2004.
Yep.
So this is like Chuck Liddell, T. Ortiz, when UFC kind of came back, and the Ultimate Fighter, when it came back more. And then, so we were watching that all the time and wanted to do that. And I was always kind of like, since I was smaller, before that, I was like, kind of fooled, I guess, too, by like traditional martial arts of like Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan. Like, oh, that's cool. That looks cool. And a small guy can beat up these guys. But it wasn't realistic. And then, but then combat sports became more popular, and then it was like boxing, wrestling, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu. So me and him became best buddies, and that helped a lot. But his mom started doing the same thing that Anna started doing, playing favoritism, treating me differently, putting me down.
How so?
Just by, if I was inside, she'd be upset and tell me to go outside. If I was outside, she'd be upset and tell me I should be doing something inside. I would have all the chores of the house. I'd have to pick, she had 7 dogs. So I picked up all the dog poop in the backyard, and I vacuumed the house every single day. The other kids didn't have to do anything.
Some petty stuff.
Yeah, she never physically abused me. She had a husband, Uncle Mark, he was a truck driver, so he was gone a lot of time, come back, gone a lot of time, come back. So a lot of it was probably her taking a lot of her stress out on me. It was easy. But Uncle Mark was very cool. I could say he was a really solid guy. Never did anything bad to me. He was always very supportive of me. Me and him would work out together in the garage, and he thought UFC was like WWE. He didn't believe it was real at first, and I had to explain to him all the time, like, dude, no, it's real. But he was awesome. And then, so things weren't, comparatively, they were fine. Like, okay, I was getting treated different. I'm like the redhead stepkid, but whoop-de-doo.
I mean, compare where you were before.
Exactly.
I'll sweep and beat the shit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And I was hanging out with Brandon all the time. He was my buddy. We were like best friends. So
were you happy at that moment in your life, or happier?
I was happier. Yeah, I was happier. We were I was starting to find like some identity, I guess, and I got to experience like almost like a childhood, like teenagehood. So I got to experience, like I said, like we'd go to parties together, we'd get into fights or something, or we'd get drunk, or like all these memories of like, I'm not saying like every kid has to go through these things, and I don't want my kids to do what I did.
Yeah.
But it was experiences that, I guess I'm just part of growing up.
There's memories that you built, and they're not bad memories.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, compared a few years before that, I wouldn't blame you want to think about those things.
Yeah, I had no hope at all.
Yeah, I'd rather think about getting drunk with my brother or my friend.
And making mistakes and learning from them, like all the time.
So I'd rather be thinking about that stuff, you know, because, we're kids, we messed up, but it's funny because I would have known better compared to like other stuff you were talking about before that. So now you're a teenager, right? And you have all these support systems that's helping you out, and you found a combat sports. So what after that, how life continued?
So I ended up leaving Brandon's house and going with my brother. So my brother was 21. Louisa had just like had enough. It was just like too much of like all the kids. I think it was just like too much, whatever. Like I said, I could never, nothing I did was right enough. So I think she reached out to my brother, and he's like, yeah, I'll take Danny. So he was 21. I was 14. 14, 15 around that time. And then so one night he came pick me up, and I just went and lived with him. Well, there was a gap in between, maybe 2 weeks, where he was living with his girlfriend at the time, and they couldn't have me like living at their house. So I kind of like couch surfed. I slept at the park like 2 nights until he can borrow money to get an apartment for us all to live in.
Oh, wow.
And then this was my brother Jeff. So I haven't had no contact with him till when I was like 7 or 8, till I was like 14. And then like right before I went with him, he like reached out to me. I think it was probably MySpace, or somehow we got into contact, and we went and hung out with him and kind of rekindled, relationship, whatever. So I think that's how probably Louisa was like, I guess, gotten a hold of him too.
Okay.
So I guess it was fine. I was just going with the flow. I was like, all right, I'll live with Jeff now. But when I was living with Jeff, I had like no rules or whatever like that too.
Did that help or make things worse?
I mean, I was happier, but I was like I could make more mistakes though too.
Like what?
So I just getting into bad stuff. Like same thing, like before when I was a Brandon, like I wanted to do kickbox stuff like that. And then I was still doing it, but I just wasn't training really. I was just like, if someone was like, I'd go do a fight or something like that. But so I was more like getting to drinking and smoking weed all the time and just partying all the time. I was going into high school when I had an apartment with a 21-year-old, and he was having parties. So my friends were coming over and having parties. So now I'm like cool because like everyone could party at my house.
Yeah, I mean, in high school, you'd be the cool kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that,
Together.
of course, like that, I went from being like just having no value at all to now it's like, dang, everyone wants to hang out with me because I have weed. Like I was selling them weed and have a place we can all drink at and whatever. So it's like, so happiness wise, yeah, if I felt happy, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And then maybe a year later, I get hit by the truck.
Wow.
So I live with my brother, I'm leaving school and I get hit by a truck and I put in a coma. So that's when things, I guess, changed too. Cause I still had the dream at the time. Like I wanted, I mean, be in the UFC, I want to be in, fight, whatever. And then I get hit by the truck and I just wake up and I'm in the hospital. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Wow.
And I thought it was a dream at first because it was just a normal day. I'm walking home from school. Hey, peace out, man. Yeah, dude, I see you. I'm across the road. I wake up in a hospital a few days later. Like, what the fuck happened?
How long you were in a coma?
I think just a couple days. I think it was an induced coma. So they can do they did a craniotomy.
Mhm.
So they take the section out of the skull to release the pressure, put it back. And then, I mean, I just had like tubes I had tubes in my head draining blood. And
How old were you when this happened?
16.
16.
Yeah.
So now you went through a ringer through your childhood and you finally thought you had a break.
Mm-hmm.
And now this happens.
Mm-hmm.
So how was things going on in your life?
So, of course, before that, like I said, I wanted to pursue, even though I wasn't like committed to training all the time, it was always in my head, like that was my dream. I want to be a fighter. I want to be a fighter. I want to be a fighter. Because at that point in time, I just wasn't scared to do it. It just, of everything else that happened, like that was my least fear of getting hit with padded gloves.
Yeah, right.
And me and my brother were beating each other up or my cousin were beating each other up all the time. But then when that happened, that's when I was like, damn, well, fucking, what am I going to do now?
Mm-hmm.
I have no other, not even now, I didn't even have a skill in that, but I have no other value in myself besides that. And then same thing, I didn't know what, like, I just remember waking up like, well, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And then like my brother and maybe his friend was there, was like, oh, he's awake. And I remember looking up at the TV and it was the same day the crocodile hunter died. And I love that man. And my first words were like, wow, dude, the crocodile hunter.
Oh, wow.
And then they're like, so what? And I was like, what happened to the crocodile hunter? And then they're like, oh, whatever, died.
Wow.
And then, so yeah, I was kind of in shock, but it was mostly shock probably because I didn't really think much of it.
I mean,
I was like, well, this happened. At least I'm alive.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't know what happened to that point. Like you said, you left school. Next thing you know, you're in the hospital.
Yeah.
Like, the fuck happened?
Yeah. And I had flashbacks of, so like the memories I have was I remember seeing the grill of a green truck. So like here, a grill of a truck. Then I remember like kind of walking like this and just blood pouring and a bunch of people surrounding me. And I remember getting on the ambulance and they're cutting my pants off to get me strapped down. And I'm fighting them. I'm like, let me go home. Let me go home. And I was like, I had brand new pants on there, like the first week of school or something like that. And then I remember just like sitting in the hospital like this, just keep on saying, I'm cold. My brother's like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And then, but all that came after I woke up already. I was like trying to, like, what the hell? And then it just felt like a dream. And then it's when I woke up, I was like, oh shit, that's not a dream.
Wow.
And then I was in like that where they had like a catheter and all this stuff in there for a couple of days. And I remember even one time in there, one of my IVs was leaking something and it was in the middle of the night and it was burning so bad. And I was hitting the nurse button. I was like, someone help. I need help. And I heard the thing going off and like no one came for like 30 minutes. And I remember the guy came in, he was like mopping and I was like, sir, I need help. And he kind of just like mopped his way back out into the hallway.
Wow.
But it was just like, so I mean, it was like that. And then they took me out, I guess that was ICU and put me in somewhere else. And I had 38 staples in my head. Wow. So they used needle nose pliers and just yanked each one out one by one. And that was probably the most painful of the whole experience. I didn't feel getting hit by the truck. I was out.
Wow.
But pulling those staples out and feeling them scrape against my skull bone, that was really sketchy.
That's raw. That's not, they don't numb you up. They just,
I mean, they might have had me on something. I had IVs and maybe they were having me a slow drip or something, but I could hear it inside my head.
Wow.
And then I could just feel it get tugged out. And then as far as like, I always try to think of, because I have a weird memory and I don't know if it was hallucinations from the drugs or some type of experience, but I remember kind of doing this, and then next thing you know, I'm on like almost like it looked like a cruise ship, or like just like wood flooring and plants and life and stuff like that. And then I came back. So I always wondered, it was just a strong memory for the longest time. And I always wondered, like, what was that kind of thing? I just remember like a bright kind of brightness coming like this. And next thing you know, I'm like back, and I'm like, whoa.
Wow.
But then, so I was in there probably maybe a week or two. I remember just wanting to go home so bad. I just remember just being like, I'm done with this. And then they would tell me like, okay, if you can like walk around the nurse's station a few times, and as long as you eat regularly, we'll let you go home. And I remember I wasn't religious at the time, really at all, because Anna she would take advantage of so many churches, and she gave me the image of what I thought a Christian was. Like, okay, it's just like all fake. Everyone, all this happiness and loving stuff is like, this person's fake. It's all fake. But so this time, like I remember just praying to go home or whatever like that, and then I get up, walk around the nurse station, eat, and the nurses were like, "We've never seen a recovery this fast in our entire life." Because I was a young kid, so for them it was kind of traumatic to see me come in like with such traumatic injuries. I mean, everything. My jaw was broken, my arm was dislocated, my skull was fractured. They didn't think I was gonna make it, and then I guess it was like, looking back, it's insane that, and thank God for those doctors and nurses that came together, because they saved my life. But I ended up going home, and that was just like kind of a slow recovery after that. I lost probably like 40, 50 pounds. I was really skinny, and just had this huge epic scar on my head. Half my head was shaved. I couldn't really eat that well because my jaw. I remember I was in the hospital. I was supposed to work that day. I was working at Subway.
Oh, wow.
I missed work. My boss thought he was going to fire me. I found out I got hit by a truck, brought me a sub, and I'm like,
that's nice.
I can't eat that sub.
Wow. He's trying to be nice.
Yeah.
So now, man, it's been a rough road to this point in your life. And now you're dealing with the fact that you're 16, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fact that you have your head shaved off, you have these staples on, doesn't help, like, the fact how you feel about yourself, because that's the time when you're like girls and everything like that. What was your outlet at that moment to deal with things?
I just smoke and drink.
Smoke and drink.
Smoke and drink. And I didn't really see it as a big deal, honestly.
Oh, you were numb. You're numbing yourself.
Yeah, I was like, I can walk, I could talk, whatever. It's like, it wasn't too big of a setback for me, but the main thing was like my dream kind of fighting was gone. But it was such a distant dream anyway. It's not like I worked so hard to get to this point. It's like, it was a dream. It was a fantasy at that point in time. But now the possibility was gone completely. Like, there's no way I could do it now. I mean, at the time, it was what I thought. And then, so yeah, same thing. And I lost a bunch of weight. So I was like really skinny, and I couldn't train. So I wasn't confident anymore. But I was still the cool kid with, like, I can drink and stuff. So I held on to that. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll just focus more on doing this. I just like sell weed and party and hang out with people. And like, that's good enough for me. And then even school was like, I would go sometimes. I'd go enough to pass. So it was like, I had the option. I didn't have to go, whatever. Well, after my accident, I had to do homeschool for like a year and a half.
Okay.
So I would do it on the phone. And there was like, I would call the number, we'd check, and there'd be a teacher and like 5 other students on the phone. And every week or whatever, I'd go pick up my paperwork from my school and just do it at home. So I didn't really get to go to school for like a year. And then, but even school never bothered me. I enjoyed going to school. I was never a problem to my teachers. I always had good relationships with my teachers, stuff like that. I still tried to be like a decent person. I wasn't just like some bum that just did nothing but drugs or whatever. I just like to smoke a party and hang out with my friends. And I was kind of like, it was fine enough for me at the time.
So going through all that as a teenager, and just like you said, just going by the emotions, what made you turn your life around that time?
Well, that time I didn't turn my life around for a while. So I was 16, that happened, 17, 18, partying. Well, okay, so this happened, 17 years old, 18. Obviously, I got hit by a car, so there's going to be some case involved, a lawsuit involved. So I was pursuing that, and I went to one of the biggest lawyers. That was a recommendation from a friend of ours. He's like, yeah, like over $300,000, $400,000 easy case settlement because the kid, it was one single lane and then oncoming traffic is Reed Canal. And I was in between cars and I went to go walk out where this car was kind of impatient, wanted to catch the light in the turning lane. So went whoom, and did one of those and didn't see me walking out because he just gunned it. And he was in a big Dodge Ram, like lifted pickup truck. Wow. So he's probably, they thought like 30, 40 miles per hour by the time he hit me. And he didn't hit the brakes or anything. And he left the scene. So he got scared, left the scene. And on top of that, he lied on the police report because his passenger, he said was like someone walking and said I was like riding my scooter in between traffic or something like that. Cause I had a GoPed, like the little, with the motor scooter and I ring, ding, 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 ding. I'd ride that to school, but you can't stop on it. It has to be moving. Yeah. So in between traffic, I had carried on my shoulder and like, look, go. But he lied on the police report, all that stuff. So I was like, I'm gonna get this huge lawsuit. I'm like, cool. I'm gonna like have a bunch of money. Yeah. And then my brother, who was my guardian at the time, they sent us already a check for like $68,000 and then pay the hospital bills or something like that. And then I was gonna do that. I was like, oh, whatever, I'll take $70,000. And then my lawyer's like, no, like that's nothing. Like they're trying to settle. But my brother started getting nervous because he thought he was gonna get stuck with my hospital bills. So him being young and uneducated and kind of just like naive, took advice from some other people that were young or old and uneducated and paranoid, and thought that if he didn't do something that I would like leave him with all the hospital bills and take all the money or something like that. Okay. So he settled behind my back and took all the money and didn't tell me about it. And then, so by the time I was 17, like this was like a year or two process, and I found out. And of course I was upset and we got into a big fight. Yeah. So he kicked me out, or I left. And I just like went to my friend's house, couch surf over here, couch surf over there, whatever. And then there was just animosity between us. And every time I saw him, I'd jump out of the car and try to fight him, no matter where he was. Wow. I hated his guts. I went to his house, and because he had a Chevy Blazer, and he's saying that he was going to give me the car and all this stuff. So I had like speakers in it and stuff like that. And then when I left, I didn't take the car. So he took the car, and I was like, I thought you were going to give me the car, and he didn't. So I went to his house to get my speakers and stuff out of it, and he wouldn't answer the door. So I like destroyed everything on his front porch, his toolbox, threw it all around, got into his car, took all my stuff out and left, and then just didn't see him for a while after that. I hated him because to me, that was like my only chance.
Yeah, that would change your life completely in a lot of ways. So that happened, and now you and your brother are not speaking terms. So what was going on in your life at that point after all this?
So I was basically, couch surfing, homeless style. I wouldn't say homeless because I was couch surfing. Hated his guts. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I ended up turning 18. Since I was getting he was getting the Social Security checks for me for being my guardian. Mm-hmm. When I turned 18, or even before I turned 18, I think I went and had it switched, and I was like, he's not my guardian, I'm not living with him, whatever like that. So I want the checks to go to me. Mm-hmm. So as long as I was still enrolled in school, I'll get them until I was 21. Okay. So I tried to do that. So I was enrolled I went back to going to school, and so I got like one or two of the checks by the time I was 18, and then use that money, get a car and stuff. And then when I turned... Okay, so yeah, then at that same time when I was 18, I was hanging with my cousin all the time still. We were still like best friends. And then I was living actually, funny story, I was living with Justin, who was Anna's son.
The older one.
The older one, and Anna in an apartment. Okay. So let's rewind to there because I forgot about this. So me and Justin I think we would know each other. We would like work out together. We started working together at the same like telemarketing job or something like that. And so we were cool. Like I said, I don't really hold animosity very well. So like same thing, I had nowhere to stay. He said I could sleep on his floor. So I was like, all right, I'll sleep on your floor. And then same thing with Anna. I was like, the past is the past, bygones be bygones. Like, I'm an adult by now. Yeah. It's like, you're not going to hurt me. You're not going to abuse. Like, there's nothing you can do to me. So yeah, I'll live in your house and sleep on your floor. Mm-hmm. So I was living there at the time. And one morning, Anna comes barging in the room crying and says, Brandon's dead. And I was like, what are you talking about? Brandon died last night. He committed suicide. My cousin.
Wow.
And I was like, what do you mean? We were just with him yesterday. Like I see him every single day. He would have told me. But when we were teenagers, he had a few like kind of suicide attempts, to where one time he took his mom's van and just maxed it out on Tomoka Farms right into a tree. Boom. And like it didn't do anything, I guess. So he got out and tried to put like a hose in the exhaust and put it in the car and just fall asleep in the car. And that's how they found him when he was like 16, 17. So his mom put him on a bunch of antidepressants and a bunch of Zoloft and all this stuff, which he would just sell them or whatever and party with them, whatever. I don't think you should just give a teenager a bunch of drugs.
No.
So he had like that kind of history already. And I guess what happened was him and his girlfriend broke up, and he had just got arrested for a DUI, leaving our apartment or whatever one time. And he was on Xanax one night and just thought it'd be a good idea to kill himself with no lead up or nothing. And it was a huge shock because, like I said, he was my best friend. He was someone that like I see every single day. No, when people would say like, they wouldn't say like, oh, have you seen Danny? They'd be like, hey, have you seen Danny and Brandon? Or like, hey, is Danny and Brandon coming? Like it was a team.
You were that close.
We were that close for sure.
Oh.
So that was tough because I cared about him more than I cared about anyone in my life. And now, bam, he's gone.
Wow, you went through the accident. Now your brother screwed you over, and now your best friend is gone.
Oh.
Like, how you find the strength during all that to keep on going? 'Cause after that, I'm assuming your life went upside down.
Yeah, because that happened. And then, I mean, shortly after that, me and Justin, like, get into a fight. I leave there. We get into a big fight because same thing, like he would have like a temper, and like I was in this point in time where it's like I didn't want to feel like submissive to anyone. I felt like I really had to stand up for myself because I never did. So anytime he'd give me any type of attitude, I'd fire back. And this time it got pretty big. So we were in the gym actually working out, and I blew up on something. So I left, went back to his house to I was gonna get my stuff and leave. And then he ends up calling his mom saying, don't let Danny in the house. So like she's not letting me in the house. I'm there like banging on the door, whatever. He comes whipping in the thing and comes at me with like a either a flat, like a big flashlight, like a mag light. And then same thing, he's a 370-pound man, whatever. So I pull a gun on him and I like, whatever, fuck you, whatever. I'm just trying to get my stuff. And then so he's like, oh, it's gonna be like that. It's gonna be like that. Runs inside to get his gun. I know he has a gun. So I leave. Boom. I ditch the gun in a bush and leave. And then I have it at like a PlayStation 3. All my clothes, all that stuff was in his house. So the cops come. I come back. I'm like, no, I didn't pull a gun. I'm just here to get my stuff, whatever. I was like, maybe it was, I was like, I told him something. I was like, no, it was something else in my hand. And they're like, all right, well, just get your stuff and leave. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna grab my stuff. But he's like, no, the PlayStation's mine. I'm like, no, it's mine. You know, it's my PlayStation. But I have a receipt for it. So the cop's like, no, you can't take it. And most of all my stuff he'd already took. So I took like a bag of clothes maybe at the most, but everything else was gone. So I get an apartment with my friend Kenneth. I forgot how we got the money for the apartment, but I think one of his family members gave him the money. It was like $700. We got an apartment in Daytona off of like Ridgewood, like pretty rough spot. So we were there, and I was just like selling weed and stuff like that, and quit my job because I was working with Justin at the time. So I quit my job, and just depended just on that. It's like selling weed and stuff like that, and I was kind of like same thing. Like I said, is just kind of going with the flow of stuff. Like anytime something happened, I just kept on dealing with it as it went. I didn't have much emotion towards the things because it was like all the time.
Yeah.
So it was like hard because Brandon just passed away and all that stuff happened at the same time. But it's like when things happen so fast, it's like distracts you from the thing that happened originally. So it's like if things are always happening, you can't even focus on the thing that set it off or whatever. So it's just a constant. But like I said, I just party and chill, and like to me, I was like, that's good enough.
Yeah, if you think of it, everything happened so back to back that you didn't have any time to actually heal.
Yeah, or process it.
Process anything.
Mm-hmm.
So now you find yourself with your boy. You're not even 21 yet, right?
No, I was maybe 19.
Yeah. So you're still a kid. So let's go over that period of time. From there, how did you went from there to where you are today at this moment?
So when I was 18, we got the apartment. Maybe okay, so exactly 1 year in, because our lease was up and we were leaving, I get arrested. So I'm at this gas station with a friend, and I lean over, and my gun fell out of my pants, fell on the ground, and I picked it up and put it back real quick and kind of just walked out. Well, the guy behind me in the line called the cops, and they saw me where I walked to. So I had weed in my pocket, and I was out front waiting for someone to come pick it up, like an ounce or something. And the cops just rushed me with gunpoint. Get on the ground, get on the ground. I was like, what's going on? They're like, where's the gun? Where's the gun? I was like, I don't have a gun. I don't have a gun on me. And then they find the weed in my pocket. What's this? And I was like, nothing.
Yeah.
And then they pull it out. And then like, where's the gun at? We have you on video dropping a gun, whatever like that. I was like, I don't have a gun. I don't know what you're talking about. Couldn't prove nothing. I didn't have a gun on me. So they arrest me. I think they charged me with that too, but later on I don't get convicted as a gun. I didn't have anything with a gun.
Okay.
So I go for an ounce of marijuana. I call someone. I had the money to bail out, so I bailed out. I get back to my apartment. My apartment's raided. My roommate and his friend took everything from my apartment.
Wow.
I knew I got arrested, knew I had more drugs in the house, and tried to find it so they could take it and steal it. My gun, they took my gun, that same one. They raided everything and left. And it was like my last day at that apartment because we were moving. Or now that I was moving, I just wasn't renewing the lease because I didn't have the money to. Which is funny because so let me rewind a few days. Like all these details that aren't really important in the main scheme, but it's just funny is how it led up.
Go ahead, man.
So a few days before that, someone stole my wallet. I was having a party, and someone stole my wallet out of my house, and it was all my rent money in it. So then I couldn't make rent. So within 3 days, it was like the next day or maybe 1 or 2 days. So I was like, man, I got to make that money back to make rent. So I made the money back.
Okay.
And then I get arrested. So I was like, now I really can't make rent because I got to use this money to bond out of jail. So then I come back to my apartment, all my stuff's gone. And a buddy of mine was helping me. He's like, all right, I'll help you get your stuff, and you can chill at my house for a little bit until we figure it out. And we were looking to grab my clothes and stuff like that. And then his girlfriend at the time was like, it smells like weed over here, whatever. And she pulls down a pair of pants, and there's like a pound of weed there.
Pound of weed
that they didn't find or whatever like that. So I was like, oh shit, they didn't find it. That's cool. And then anyway, like I said, those details aren't that important. But so I stayed with him for a little bit. I was still like selling weed and just whatever. And
I mean, all the options you had.
Yeah, for sure. Me and him were good friends, but then maybe a few months into that, then I really get arrested, and they were watching me for trafficking. So they were kind of had undercover cops watching me this whole time. And so they raid his house and the apartment I was staying at. They raid everything, take everything. And now I'm really in jail and I can't bond out because my bond's like a lot. Oh. I think my bail alone was like $70,000. Like a lot.
How old were you at that time?
19.
Right, still 19.
I was still 19. So now I'm in jail and I'm facing like the points I pointed out to based on my charge was 55 years. Oh. So it was for trafficking of like Percocets and marijuana and stuff like that. And so they're like a bunch of minimum mandatory charges, whatever like that. So now I'm kind of like, damn, this is kind of scary because now I might go to prison. So in jail is when I started to kind of be semi-religious, because I remember having a conversation in my head of like, I have no hope. I was a complete atheist before that. I thought it was all BS. But then I was in jail and I was like, I have nothing else. Like, I'm just going to try to read the Bible and see if there's anything in here I could relate to or see anything that could help me. Yeah. And there's like a few guys in there that were like, they call them like jailhouse pastors or something like that, a jailhouse preacher, where like when they're in jail, they're very religious. They get out, they do the same stuff. Then they come in here. But so like a few of those guys kind of like just explain to me some stuff and whatever. So I'm sitting there trying to read. So I'm sitting there reading the Bible. They give you like this big, and it's like some weird translation. I can't even understand it. And I already don't know how to read the Bible at this point. I have no idea where to start. Mm-hmm. And I remember, so I prayed. I said, God, I wish I had a Bible that I can understand and read because I want to learn. 5 seconds later, someone knocks on my cell door, random inmate, and says, "Hey, man, I know those Bibles are hard to read. I got a couple extra ones if you want one."
Awesome.
And I was like, that was weird. Why did that happen? That's really strange. So he did, and I was able to, he gave me a better translation one and told me a little bit about it, and I could read more. And then, so same thing, I was still like just dabbling, just like give it a chance, whatever. Like maybe some of this stuff at least just give me some hope to get through, the jail sentence, whatever like that. And then I get moved out of there and I get put in another dorm. And then I meet someone who's done 25 years in prison. He's an older guy, 55-year-old guy, Lee Manning. He kind of took me under his wing. Me and him became really close. He was truly spiritual. He wasn't just like a jailhouse preacher or whatever. And I saw the difference between my old bunkie who would talk so much, and then he ended up stealing a lot of stuff from me, whatever. Like, he was a horrible person. This guy, he was really looking out for me. So he taught me about the Bible. We'd do like Bible study, stuff like that, but he'd also just like show like how it truly is, how you can really be, a strong guy, whatever, go to prison for 25 years, whatever, and now change your life.
Yeah.
So he ended up murdering someone, and then now he's back in jail for some petty stuff that I think they set up, honestly. Like, he wasn't supposed to be in there. But looking back, he was supposed to be in there for me, because if I never met him, I wouldn't be sitting here. There's no way.
So in the midst of all that, you found some glimpse of hope.
Yeah, I found a glimpse of hope, and I was able to find strength in being spiritual and finding faith in God. And not just finding faith in God, but having all these different things happen to where, for instance, when I was on my knees praying one night in my upper bunkie, whatever like that, he was like complete atheist, all that stuff. Same thing, like I was trying to tell him, like, hey, no, me too, whatever. I used to be like this, but now I'm trying to learn. And I remember praying, I remember having this weird feeling like someone was standing next to me. And I remember, like, just in my mind, opening my eyes and seeing like a foot there, just like someone standing there. And then I hear my bunkie like kick his blankets off the bed. And I was like, what happened? He's like, I thought you were just standing next to my bedside. And that was another part that solidified. It's like, this is something different. And this is something more than just like blind faith of me thinking like, well, I just hope it's real. It's like, I started having these experiences like, man, like, how else can we both encounter the same thing? Mm-hmm. So stuff, and then I ended up getting him to, come, told him exactly this, what I just told you. Like, dude, I thought the same thing, whatever. Anyway, there's like a little counter. I had that little Bible verse on it. Well, on my next court date, it said, now unto this day, go into the world and preach the gospel. And then, so I was telling her, like, no, I'm getting out. I know I'm getting out this day. And they're like, no, there's no way you're getting in prison because the charges that they have against you, all this stuff. I was like, no, like, I'm going to beg them just to give me one chance, to give me probation, give me one chance. I'm not going to mess up again. So I did something that's where I did a plea to the judge. So instead of, I was basically going straight to sentencing. Like, hey, here's my story. Okay. It's up to you, whatever you convict me of. Whereas before they were trying to hit me with a deal. Like, okay, well, they said if you plead to this, then they'll give you only 4 years in prison and you can get out and gain time and stuff like that. I was like, no, I'm not going to prison. I want to get probation because like I'm done with that lifestyle. I'm completely done with it. I was like, there's no like appetite for that anymore. So I went to court and I pled to him. I told my kind of story, like, hey, this is my background. This is who I am now. And this is like what I'm going to do from now on. Give me one chance. Give me suspended sentence, whatever you want to do. Like if I mess up, put me in prison, but like I'm not going to mess up. And I had wrote him like 2 or 3 times when I was in jail, just like explaining the situation. And my lawyer hated it. He's like, stop writing the judge. You don't need it. You're going to incriminate yourself. I was like, listen, I'm telling the truth. I was doing the things he told me I was doing. I was selling drugs. I'm just telling him I'm not going to do it anymore. I was like, I'm not fighting the case. I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And he's like, because when I got arrested, it was at my friend's house. All the drugs were in his house. I could have rolled over on him. My lawyer told me to. He's like, listen,
wow.
If you say they weren't yours, I can't prove they were yours. They were in his house. I was like, I'm not going to do that.
I'm over your friend.
Over my friend, yeah.
No, I can't do that.
No. And he just had a baby and all this stuff.
No.
I was like, no. So I was like, I'm just going to man up and do it. And listen, whatever happens, happens, and I'll deal with it as it comes. So we go to court. I plea out to him. The state is like going crazy. But Your Honor, he's already had one arrest before. And but Your Honor, like, we've heard this all before and this and that. And the judge is like, well, listen, I'm going to give you a chance. I'll give you 6 years probation a year of house arrest, and I'm going to waive all of your probation fees and court fees because I know like you're not going to be able to pay it. And I almost cried there, and I just like, thank you so much. Another person, that Judge Hutchison, was a stepping stone to change my life. He gave me one chance. If he didn't give me that chance, I would have never changed. I would have went to prison, probably just fell back to the same stuff.
So
like,
go ahead, sorry.
But no, that was kind of like another stamp on like this is real.
Yeah, I want to feed them back on that. It's like when you heard those words that you're getting another chance, like besides the emotion of being happy or crying, what was going through your head?
So it's weird because I expected it, not like blindly expecting it, like naively, like
faith.
Like a faith. Yeah, I thought like, no, like he's gonna believe. Like, I'm being honest. I'm literally just being honest. He's not gonna punish me for being honest. If I went in there and tried to make excuses, whatever, no, I'm being honest with him. And as a man, I'm speaking directly to him. I'm not having a lawyer try to finagle his way and persuade someone. I'm just telling him, listen, I'm guilty of that, but I'm gonna change. And so when he said it, I was like, it's just satisfying. It was just satisfying that honesty and being a good person really did pay off in that point in time. Because when I was in jail too, I was living the way like I think a Christian should live, and I wasn't getting involved with like this or that, and I was staying strong, and I'll do anything extra. Like I ended up getting my diploma when I was in there, so I was going to school, I was working, I was just doing everything productive as I can to truly solidify them, change my life from this point on. And none of my past really, it's kind of like I never go so far back to fall. So I never look back and say, no, but life was so hard or whatever. It's like so many things were happening back to back that whatever's right in front of me is the only thing I could focus on.
Yeah.
So when it gave me a chance to feel sorrow for myself or pity, I was just like, yes, okay, this is good and this is good and this is good. So when he told me I'm getting out, I knew it was like, I have to be the person I said I was going to be. And I can't fall back into being the person that I was. And then
you think of it, that was your last chance.
Mm-hmm.
Your literally last chance.
Mm-hmm.
So you get this chance of life, and now you have a chance to do everything, in a straight way. What's the next step?
So the day I get out, I was in like a relationship before I got arrested, but we were broken up. But when I was in there, she was like writing me all the time and kind of stuck with me. And then same thing with my faith. I was like, well, she seems like a good person, and I'm just, she's really looking out for me, so I'll give her another chance. And also, her mom was gonna let me stay at her house. So I'll be honest, there was also like, yeah, now I have a place to stay too. Mm-hmm. So not only like am I giving her a chance, but because before, without it, like we were broken up, and I wanted nothing to do with this girl at all. So she kind of persuaded me to come back. So I'm living with her. Within a month, I found out she's pregnant, and I'm on house arrest. I have no job, and I have nothing, and I really don't like her at all. Within that month, I already reminded me of how much I do not like this girl. So she's pregnant, but she's telling, or like, there's all this stuff like, could it be mine? Mm-hmm. Could it be someone else's? Because I just got out of jail. Did we have intercourse? Yes. So there's a chance it's mine. There's also a chance it's not mine. And of course, I don't want to believe it's mine. So we're going that back and forth. But then same thing, I fall back on my faith of like, listen, I need to do the right thing. This is either my kid or it's not. Either way, he's going to need a father no matter what. And I was like, I'm not just going to like deny it until I know it's not. So in my mind, this is my kid. Okay. Like I said, we had intercourse. I didn't use protection. Most likely, that's what happens.
Possibility.
That's how it works. So before that, any other thought was just based on like doubt or fear or whatever. Mm-hmm. No real proof. I mean, she was like maybe messing around with guys in between, whatever, but no one said definitively like, no, it's not yours. So same thing. That's what reeled me back in, was holding on to that. Just like a spiritual foundation of like, do the right thing, sacrifice what you need to and do the right thing. And so we were together. She was pregnant. I was going to Daytona State College. I signed up for school. I want to become a social worker. Beginning. So I majors in psychology. I had to ride my bike because I had no car. So I rode my bike from Big Tree and Clydemore's to Daytona State College and back. And I went to church, was right across. I could only go to work, school, or church. And then I ended up getting a job at CC's Pizza. So I'd ride my bike that way. So it was like a lot of bike riding. But before I got the job at CC's Pizza, I had to check in at probation every morning. So I'd take the Votrain every morning, go to probation, go do job searching till like 2, come back, drop the paperwork off, come back. So it was like an all day thing. So house arrest was hard. House arrest was really hard and probation was really hard. But same thing, it's just like, this is your only chance. Don't mess it up.
Yeah.
Would you rather be in prison or riding the Votrain around? So it's like, ride the Votrain around. Yeah. And to me, I'm getting out of the house.
Yep.
So I'm like, shit, I'm on house arrest, but I'm out in nature or at the world. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I'm not in jail. I remember looking to just being in jail, looking at the little window, just like, fucking goddamn, like I'd love to just not be here right now and just walk wherever I want to walk. And you start being so much more grateful for a little bit of freedom of that. Or just freedom in general.
Yeah, things sometimes we take it for granted sometimes.
Yeah, like you know, just to be able to walk outside when you want to, and so that's why I always compare. So it's like, to a normal person, okay, this sucks. You're on house arrest. You have a pregnant girlfriend. You're like, you have to ride your bike to school and ride your bike to CC's Pizza and all this stuff. It's like, it's not as bad as it was. It's better than it was.
Yeah, and
that's the good thing about starting off things so bad is like you always have like the bars already high, so it's like you can never reach that again, most likely. You know, it's like everything goes downhill. So that didn't bother me too much. I was go to church, go to work, go to school, go to church, go to work, go to school. Well, me and her relationship was falling apart more and more because she's not really on the same path as me. So same thing, she's like still trying to do pills and stuff, and she's like whatever. So Riley's born. Okay, so we split up before Riley's born. I go back to live with my friend Jed. When I got arrested, I was living there. She's her water breaks. She comes over. We go to the hospital together. Riley's born. When I see him, I'm like, "This is my son. We're gonna try to make this work." So we get back together. Her grandfather gets us an apartment in South Daytona. So we have an apartment in South Daytona. I get a job offer from Jed. I was making $7 an hour at CC's Pizza. He gets me a job making like $10 an hour, which I was like, oh my God, that's so much. $10 an hour.
Better than 7.
Better than 7. So I worked with him. We did like steel fabrication, but the specific thing we did was like install handrails and guardrails and stuff like that, construction sites. So I was making decent money. I ended up, my friend sold me a car for $500. So I got that, a Mountaineer. I drive that to work. It was a V8, 5.0 V8. That was gas was like horrible because I had to drive all the way to like past New Smyrna from South Daytona.
Wow.
But it's still good. Like I said, it was like comparatively cool. Now I have a car. Now I have a job. Now I have an apartment. Things are looking up.
Good.
From the outside, yeah, if you compared it to something else, yeah, it's not the best. But to me, I was like, it was everything. This is so nice. What happened there? We split up again. Okay, we lost. I lost my job. Mountaineer broke down. Couldn't make it to work. They were already trimming the fat. It was a construction job too, so they're already trimming the fat. I was a low level guy, so they're like, all right, well, we don't really need you here anymore. So bam, lose my car, lose my job. We lose the apartment. We go to live with her grandfather. Same thing. She's off her rocker. I don't have money to supply her to get her stuff no more. So she's double crazy now. Her grandfather, her whole family sees it. And one night her grandfather comes over to me and says, I don't know how you can put up with her. Listen, you're very strong and we understand, but I don't know how you do it. And none of us would feel any way towards you if you couldn't do it no more. Trust me, we completely understand. And I told him too, like, yeah, I just feel bad. Like I'm trying to make it work the best I can for our son. And he's like, listen, don't worry about Riley. We'll make sure that you're not going to lose like visitation. Like you're always going to be able to see him whenever you want, all this stuff. And then, so it's like her own family, like knows how crazy she is.
So they're giving you a way out, basically.
Exactly.
Wow.
So I talked to him, and the next day I just started packing my stuff. And I went back to Jed's house. He said he'd stay over at my house. But same thing, like I would try to see Riley whenever I want, but then it's not happening.
Wow.
She wants to hold everything against me and just completely like cut ties with me and my son. And then that's when she started saying like, oh, he's not yours, he's not yours, not yours, not yours. Which I never believed, because having him and knowing him and seeing him, I know he's mine. So I was living with him. She's going through that. I'm not seeing him. I'm maybe like a few years into I'm off the house arrest. I'm just on probation. Now I start slipping up a little bit. Now I got a motorcycle. I don't even know like where I was working at this time. Get another job, get a motorcycle anyway. Then I'm like single. So now I'm probably 21, 22, single, get an apartment, get a job, have a motorcycle, and I'm like going out drinking and stuff like that, going to Seabreeze, doing all that stuff. Not living the best life. Not anything to, obviously I can't do any drugs. I'm on probation, whatever like that. So I think that's like, I started drinking more then. And then I'd just get a job like at a restaurant or something like that. Or I had a job doing electrical work for a while, stuff like that. And then I was just single from like 21 till about 25. And that's kind of like, I was just like, yeah, just hanging out with the buddies, with the boys, going out with the boys, taking the sport bikes out, going crazy. Not really, never violating, nothing too crazy, but just, you know, having fun and stuff like that. I had a job, had a place to live, all that stuff. I'd only see Riley like hopefully on holidays, and hopefully like if I can beg her to do, like I would go walk around for Halloween with them together, or go to Thanksgiving with her family. I hated her to death. I hated every bit about her. But I'll do whatever I can just to see him. So that was really tough, and I think that's how I was dealing with it, was not seeing Riley was driving me into like drinking, just going out and just like focusing on like meeting girls or hanging out with the boys, stuff like that.
So being in the situation right now where you find yourself propensed to slip again in a big way, what went on that made you get out of that and better yourself after that?
So yeah, like you said, I was like on the verge of like slipping out hard. I ended up getting off probation when I was like 25. I got off a little bit early because, like I said, I didn't violate or nothing like that. Then I met who my wife is now, Alyssa. So it was just random. She messaged me on social media, and we went to South Turn, had dinner and some drinks and stuff. But she was a little bit different. She didn't like want to like try to hook up like the first night or second night, third night, like stuff like that. And we'd like actually go out like on actual dates, like go during the day, not just like meet up at night, stuff like that, or go out and have drinks every night. She didn't really like party and stuff like that, which is good. And she also had a son that was 1 year older than my son. So at this point, I was seeing Riley a little bit more than less, because I was submitted so many times where it's like there's no resistance, just like whenever I can, just I see him. And same thing, there's a lot of details in between. That's the whole story of she moved away. She tried to move to Michigan one time, took him with them, all this stuff. Like that was really like that was hard, because I just wanted to see my son so bad. And I didn't want him to not have a dad too, because I knew how it was. I never had a dad too. It was like horrible. So yeah, I started slipping down, but she had her son, and I would get Riley, and they'd like get to play together and stuff like that. And then they ended up just being close, and then me and her were dating. She lived with her parents in a trailer, and she wanted to get out of there. She was the most responsible one in her family too. So we ended up getting an apartment together after like maybe a month or two being together. But we were happy. She was able to dial me back where I needed to be, and put my focus back on having a family. Before family was no foundation for me, because I didn't even have my own kid. So I was just like living a single life, just doing whatever I wanted all the time, not thinking about the risk too much, and definitely not training or nothing. I gave that up completely. So I meet her. She dials me back a lot. She doesn't party and drink and smoke and do all that stuff, but she also doesn't look down on anyone for it. She just doesn't do it. Her parents, stuff like that, drank a lot when she was growing up, so it kind of like turned her away from it. So when I meet her, I get that focus back on family and doing the right thing and raising these kids together, raising these two boys together. Because same thing, Jake's dad wasn't in his life, her son, Jake. He's a year older than my son. They become best buddies. They're polar opposites, so they fill the gaps in each other's characteristics. Maybe a year and a half later, we have my daughter together. So our relationship's great. I'm so happy. I've had everything I wanted. I have my own little family. We have an apartment. I have a car. I have a job. Back up and running again.
Wow.
A girl who I love, and then everything was going good.
So now, after all this, like, pile of shit you're going through in your life, now you found this amazing woman who's like completing you, putting that in those terms, and now you have a family, you're a good husband, great dad, and now you're laser focused on living. So from there, I met you at the academy, and to be honest, I didn't know anything about your background, because the way you carry yourself is just happy-go-lucky guy, nonchalant, chill. Like, everybody, when they mention you in the academy, is like, "Oh, Danny's such a nice guy, quiet." Like, you are. You
Thank you.
and that's who you're known for. So when I heard about the side of your life, I was in shock, because the level of violence you have to go through to achieve the level of peace. You know, you having all this situations going into your life, and seeing you today being a peaceful man, because that's what you're known for.
Yeah, I try to be peaceful. Sure.
That's what you're known for. And anybody who talks about Danny in the academy is that he's this chill, nice guy. So, but it took a lot of tears and emotions to get to this point. So now talk a little bit about who you are today. You have a great job. You have a fun job, I might say.
Yeah.
And you're at your purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and you have your own company. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So that was the big stepping stone, is meeting Alyssa, putting the focus back on family and God first. Definitely. Like I said, dialed me back a lot. So I started. Then I got a job to my buddy Brian as an electrician, but we had to travel a lot. So actually, this was right before my daughter was born.
Okay.
So I was traveling to West Palm Beach. I'd work 4 10s and then come back for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was nice. And when my daughter was born, I was like, I can't be leaving my daughter. There's no way. So I had to find something back in town. So that's when I started working at the sushi restaurant in Port Orange, just washing dishes and stuff. And I'd have like 2 jobs, restaurants. I just split between. And then at the sushi restaurant, one of the guy quits, and then he offered me like more than I was making at the other place. So I was like, all right, I'll work here full time. So I started working there full time. And then Alyssa, she cuts hair. So she was cutting hair of John, the owner of the restaurant I work at now, the sushi restaurant in New Smyrna.
Okay.
And he was, or she was, I didn't really like where I was at, because where I was working, he's a rough, old green man that's mean. And so I was like, man, and I wasn't getting paid very well either, but I had to do whatever I could.
Yeah, you had to.
And then, so she told him about that. He's like, oh, well, we have a position over at my restaurant. So I was like, all right, cool. So she told me, and then I was like, all right, I'll go there. So I started working for John in 2015, I think 2015 or 16. Well, John's son, Jonathan, was training jiu-jitsu at the Armory. And they kind of like a deal where if you work there, you only got to pay $50 a month to train there. And I was like, that's awesome. 4 or 5 months before I got the job with John, I was training with a buddy of mine. He trains MMA, and I was helping him with like his kickboxing, stuff like that. And we were grappling, doing like, back then, even then, I didn't call it jiu-jitsu. I just called it like MMA grappling. But it had jiu-jitsu parts to it, right? There's the chokes and arm locks and stuff like that. But it was mostly just like grappling. He trained jiu-jitsu, and then we had another blue belt that came, and so we were like training grappling. And I was like, man, I wish find a gym. I'd love to train at a gym. So we're at John, like, yeah, we have a gym that it's only $50 a month. I was like, oh, sweet. I've been wanting to join jiu-jitsu for the past 4 months. I've been talking about it. So I started the Armory. It was like, it's a lot different than our academy. It's an MMA gym, so they do everything. The instructor, Rich, is former UFC fighter. He was in WEC. In fact, he was a WEC champion at one point in time. He trained at AKA. where Khabib and Daniel Cormier, all them trained over there. He was like 23-3 pro MMA. Yeah, he was really good. He'd been wrestling since he was 4 years old. He trained Sambo in Russia, trained fighter in Russia. He had his gym over there. The total package when it comes to combat sports, knows everything. He's boxed, he's wrestled, that's how I found out about seminar. He was already training there.
Okay.
And his dad liked it there because it was kind of like just strict, very strict, and he was pushing his son a lot, really hard.
Yeah. So
now we're reaping the benefits of all that hard training from Jonathan.
Yeah.
Because he did Taekwondo since he was 4 years old, so he's always been training. But the vibes what got me in the gym, and then the structure and stuff like that is what kept me there too. And then just after that, just the skill level at the gym's gone up so much. And then now it's like I will not miss training unless it's a necessity. Whereas at the Army, it's like no big deal. Like I'll show up sometimes whatever. I'll go have lunch instead. But now it's like I said, these are the days I go, no matter what, because I started getting good at it. Not good at it, but better than I was. I don't think I'm good yet, but I was getting better like fast.
Yeah, you keep on learning every single day.
For sure.
You just do works that you never stop learning. Let me ask a question though. Given your background in your life, and given the camaraderie at Calixto's Academy, because they're all about family.
Oh, 100% for me and my family as well, because all my kids have trained jiu-jitsu too. So they are. I mean, just having someone that's comfortable and safe for my kids, having someone that's clean and comfortable for me, having somewhere that's, like you said, everyone there, it's somewhere I could be proud to train at. Whereas the Armory was like, I was okay training there. And of course, it's like in the deepness of like combat sports, everyone knows who Richie is. And, you know, there's a respect level there. But from the outside, no one really respected our gym that much. So I wasn't proud to be there because it was just like a nonchalant gym. It wasn't like hard, strict training all the time. It was just like, what do y'all want to do? Which is fun. But it's like, if you don't know anything, it's hard to like gain the foundations, like how we train guard and passing guard and stuff all the time. Whereas over there, I was learning like heel hooks and bicep slicers and stuff like that, random stuff, which is fun, tricky, fun stuff. And it looks fun and it's fun to do. And you could catch people with it sometimes. But
no structure.
Okay. So the structure and everything at Healthy and the skill level and all that stuff came together. And I was like, this is like represents more of my character and more of what I believe in.
So now you're under the mentorship of Edges. And what inspired you to do the company that you're running today?
So for Grapple Inc., like I said, jiu-jitsu now, I've been training 7 years, something like that. Yeah, almost 8 years. And so now jiu-jitsu is a huge part of my life. And I know everyone in this town that trains or has trained, or because from the beginning, like I said, 2004, from kickboxing gym on up, I've dabbled in like all the gyms around town. So I get to know people and create connections. And then, so with my company, I was thinking like, it's already something I do all the time. It's something that's not huge yet, but it's growing. And it's something to where, as far as apparel goes, there's not much fashionable things that you can buy. It's more like jiu-jitsu for life, or like these like quotes or something like that. It's kind of like, to me, some of this stuff's kind of corny. I don't really want to wear it. But it's like, if you go on Amazon, try to find a jiu-jitsu, it's like all the same generic stuff. And I was like, I want something to stand out where it's like more streetwear, where it's like people can wear it. Yeah. Even if they don't train jiu-jitsu, like Nike, like if you don't play sports, people still wear Nike. Right. So on a Grapple Inc. to be like something where it's just like, it represents more than just like, I do jiu-jitsu or I do whatever. And I wanted to accompany all the different forms of grappling too, not just jiu-jitsu.
People you sponsor, what's going on?
So that was my main thing for the year, was promotions and sponsorships. So I've given out like a bunch of t-shirts and stuff like that, and hats and some different things that just like some guys at our academy, random, like just like some buddies, stuff like that. And then sponsorships, I have a couple guys that are professional MMA fighters, a few guys that are in BKFC, and then Valor Bare Knuckle, which same thing. It's not jiu-jitsu, but it's combat sports. And I wanted my company to represent all combat sports.
That's great.
So I think we can all relate. And I think it's just like, it doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu guys versus the wrestler guys or wrestler versus sambo. It's like, we all share a unique thing that we do. And it's so tight knit that I respect anyone that gets I don't care if it's karate, I don't care if it's taekwondo, whatever. But for the main combat sports, it's like we are like a family. I feel like that. So like I said, coming up through this town, we do have now we have a bunch of good gyms. Now we have a few good gyms that have produced guys that have gone professional, and we used to share the same mats together. And it's nice. They're more than willing to help us grow. And more or less, they like the apparel, the aesthetics of it, and like the way it looks, and but also want to try to just help us grow.
Awesome. On that same point, what's your mindset every morning when you wake up? From going from in a park to, well, I got 3 beautiful kids. I have a wife. I have a great job. Your boss is pretty badass. I love John and his kid. John are great people, and starting your own company. Like 10 years ago, you even thought you would be doing this?
Not really. I had not much direction, but I always had hope. I never had like a way to get there, but I knew there's no way I'm gonna die without getting there. And I'm not there yet, but I'm on my way to where I want to be. I'm happy for all the non-physical things in my life. I'm super grateful for. Health is the number one thing. If I had no health, I would have nothing. And with health, I can do anything. I think any of us can do anything if you're healthy. And my family's healthy. I can't let anything bother me. That's why, like how you mentioned, I'm kind of laid back, happy-go-lucky, because it's like my family's healthy. I don't care if we're living under a bridge. Like, you have hope if you're healthy. I have our neighbor, their son, Alex. He's like 2 years old. And he's had brain cancer since he was born, and they've been fighting that constantly. And I'm like, my life's way better than that. Even in the worst of it, I can't like compare. And like millions of people around the world, hundreds of millions of people. I've just living in this country, we're better off than most of the world. So I can't really find any real reason to really get too upset about things. So I'm so grateful for, like you said, like I wake up in the morning, I every morning kiss my wife and my daughter goodbye to go to school and go to work. And I go to the gym and train jiu-jitsu, doing something I love, something I've always wanted to do around people I love and support. And then I come home, eat, recover, do it all over again.
Man, you're killing it at life, man. Because I been to your restaurant. You're a hell of a chef.
Thank you.
You're badass in the mats. Okay, and it's funny, when I met you, you're like, well, I can do this day, but this day's for my kids, so I have to be after school. And for me, it was really meaningful, the fact that despite what's going on, you had the priority were your kids first. And that for me was meant a lot to hear from you, even though I didn't know your background, but I knew the kind of person you were at that moment when you said that. And I honestly can't thank you enough for sharing the story today. It's a powerful story. And on that same note, if you had a chance to talk to somebody who was going through either something similar or just went through something similar, and they're having doubts about themselves, what will you tell them?
So, I mean, it's hard not to sound like generic and cliche in a lot of ways, but I've narrowed this down so much because it's the only way I can create kind of like this system that I have to live and thrive, kind of thing. And that's what I really believe it is. It's like a system that you have to create of discipline and sacrifice. Putting yourself second is a big one. If you only focus on yourself and your own emotions and how bad your life is and how this hasn't worked out or that hasn't worked out, you'll dwell in it forever. And it would be hard to pull yourself out of yourself because you're just engulfed in yourself. I think nowadays it happens a lot with social media and Instagram, stuff like that. And it's like you're your own CEO of your own company and you are the company. And then so people try to promote it and they care so much about if people think this or think that, or if they look this way or look that way. And it's a lot of pressure put on yourself like that. But if I focus on like how my family's doing or how my kids are doing and stuff like that, and as long as they're doing good, then I'm good. My life's good. And there's whatever I can do to help their life get better helps. Is just detaching yourself from your ego, I think, is a big deal. I think our ego is a big deal. Fight against it all day.
Yeah.
And we react to things the way we shouldn't, instead of responding to them and taking the time to understand other people's reasoning behind things or points of view and stuff like that. So being a lot more humble, just understand it's discipline more than inspiration and motivation, because those things are temporary, and that everything is temporary. The good things are temporary, so hold on to them and be grateful. And the horrible parts are temporary, so they'll be gone. Like, no matter how hard it is, getting hit by the truck, whatever, it's gone. It could have never happened for all I know. There's things that cause repercussions and ripple effects in your life where it's like, it's a piece of this negative thing that happened, whatever like that. But for the most part, I think about the things I went through in my life. When I think about the hard things, it gives me strength, because I'm not going through that anymore. I don't live with Anna no more. She's not abusing me. She never will again. So why would I let that bring me down instead of uplift me?
Yeah.
So all the negative things lift me more than drag me down. It can't drag me down. Only the future, or things that are bound to happen or yet to happen. Like, for instance, if like a health problem, or say tomorrow I get cancer. Yeah, that would stress me out, because it's like, that's the future. But nothing in the past can hurt me, stress me out.
That's done already.
And even if something did happen in the future, I would just set up a plan and start dealing with it as it, day by day, second by second, as it comes, and just have the confidence that you can. And no, you don't have a choice. If you don't have a choice, to deal with the things you have to do. So it's like, can't crawl in a hole.
Yeah, good point. You have a choice. Either you deal with it or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's no in between.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great way to put it. Now, any plans going on with you, Danny, on the mat, outside the mat, on your company, that how people can know and follow you?
Yeah, so I'm trying to work on the company. I know it's a slow process. It's nothing like, not expecting to get like profit and stuff like that for a while. It's just getting our name out there and working on the designs and make it palatable for people to want to wear it and stuff like that. It makes me happy when some people have bought like my shirts and stuff like that, and they didn't even know it was me. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll bring it to the gym tomorrow. And they're like, you know where I train at? I'm like, yeah, I train with you. Like, who is this? I'm like, Danny. They're like, what the heck? I didn't notice. I just saw it on my newsfeed. And I was like, dude, that's awesome. That's the best way. Because I love when people support me, but if they do it just because they like it, that's the best.
So any social media?
So you could find Grapple Inc. on YouTube. It's just spelled just Grapple, GRAPPLEINC. Should be like the first thing that comes up. Instagram, we have an Instagram, but no one's really running it right now. We had plans for something, but they never went through. So I believe it's grappleinc.fl on Instagram. Facebook at Grapple Inc. Facebook's the most activity right now.
Okay.
That's where I'm posting. We have a lot of videos of guys from our gym on the mats. After class, we have all the competitions from last year, Pan Ams and stuff like that. We have like really good footage of behind the scenes, because Jared had a press pass. So from Matt's side, we have all good videos on there, and we're going to make more videos. Same thing. I want to add some other content. I got to work on more content.
Okay.
It's just right now, it's kind of doing it alone's a lot of work.
Okay. Do you, if I want to find you on Facebook, would be the same way?
Yeah, it should just be Grapple Inc. We should be the first one. You'll see our logo on there, and it'll be the first one.
Okay.
And then we have a Shopify. All of our links to our Facebook as well on that too.
Perfect.
So Grapple Inc. on Shopify. Yeah, that's it. And we're going to be working on like TikTok, stuff like that. Like you said, reels and stuff like that. Like getting content out, I think is really important. It just takes a lot of work.
It does. It does. Sure does. Well, Danny, I can't thank you enough for sharing the story today. It's not only inspiring, but it's humbling to meet the man behind the story. Yeah, right. It's amazing. So thank you for your time. If anything else, any last word before we wrap it up?
No, I appreciate it so much. I think what you're doing here is awesome. I think it's going to spread like wildfire. I think it's what people need to hear. And it doesn't matter if you're a CEO or a janitor, like everyone has a story.
Correct.
And it's capturing that, and through somewhere like jiu-jitsu is a good way, because there's so many different types of people, from different backgrounds meeting. And I think, I hope I wish you the most of success with everything.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it from you.
I appreciate you. Give me the chance to speak. I mean, like I said, there's so many details in between. I was trying to skim over everything, but I hope some people could relate to some of the things I said, and I hope they can gain some type of strength from it, because I'm an average bloke. Like, what do you, like, I have nothing special to offer. Like,
that's what you
anyone can and have discipline and just really want something and work towards it and make the sacrifices that need to be made. And
Well, you're a great story of what not to quit ever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no matter what in your life, you never quit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's one thing I was consistent in your story.
Mm-hmm.
So, Danny, again, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Eric.
And hey, guys, stay tuned for more Beyond Capable stories. And this is your host, Eric Trinidad. Have a great day.
Thanks.